it's time for Ringside. Got a bunch of news lined up for you, ladies and gentlemen, so without further ado, we're just gonna whack! The Wrestling Observer newsletter says the idea of The Rock winning the Royal Rumble as a surprise entrant was, quote, discussed for past years when there was an idea of him headlining Mania. The Rock's recent return to WWE means that scenario shouldn't be ruled out for this year's Royal Rumble event, but it's, quote, completely up to Dwayne Johnson. Folks, he's not winning the Rumble, okay? I highly doubt that they had Mans penciled in for the winner of the Royal Rumble. There's no way. Okay, I would classify. Goldust has a better chance of winning the Rumble than The Rock does. Okay, he could enter the Rumble. I'm not saying that you could completely rule him out of the Royal Rumble entirely. That's not what I'm saying. He's not winning. I'm just gonna go ahead. All right, and I'm gonna grab you by the wrist, and I'm just gonna pull you away from that because that's not happening. Okay. I'm not even sure if he's even going to be in Australia. You know what I mean? Like, I know. I'll tell you one thing, though. He's not going to be in the Rumble, okay? There's not really much else to say about... Well, no, sorry. He's not going to win the Rumble. He's not going to win the Rumble. He may, I don't know. He may be in the Rumble. Apparently, it's up to him. I feel like he would probably say yes to being in the Rumble. I guess maybe to, I don't know, for some match or something. I genuinely don't know because... He could be in Australia, he could be at the Rumble, he could be at Mania, all this, where could he and all this nonsense, I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing that I do know, he's not winning the Rumble. Next, it was mentioned on Fight for Select that most people in WWE expect Andrade and Naomi to be involved in the Royal Rumble. Naomi, more than likely. Andrade, I'm gonna say probably not. It seems a little bit too soon. If I'm Andrade, I don't know. I personally would just finish out the month. I wouldn't go to the Rumble. I'd wait till the Rumble was done, you know, because, let's be honest, it's not like the Rumble would really, like, do anything for him. He'd come in, make a nice appearance, get thrown out, that'd be pretty much it. I would rather, if I'm Andrade, I'd rather make my return sometime after the Rumble, I don't know, somewhere around Elimination Chamber, guarantee a match on that card, I don't know. But I wouldn't come in the Rumble. That's just me. That's just me. I don't necessarily know what he's thinking. He could show up at the Rumble potentially. So far, I haven't really heard anything about you know, him making any movements, you know, over to WWE. Jack Perry recently on NJPW NJPW Battle in the Valley. He apparently ripped up his AEW contract. So that I'd take with that what you will. You know, story. You know what I mean? Kayfabe? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But the point I'm trying to make is that, you know, right now, it sort of doesn't really seem like anything in terms of, like, moving over to one company or the other is going to happen. At least for right now, it doesn't really seem like it. I don't know. That's only because I haven't really heard anything. So there's not really a whole lot to go off of, you know what I mean? So I guess we're just going to have to wait and see, you know, in the coming weeks, you know, because the Royal Rumble is happening at the end of the month, and we're not even halfway through the month yet. So, you know, there's enough time for Uncharted to be like, nah, or yeah, you know what I mean? So we're just gonna have to wait and see, really. Moving over to AEW, Wrestling Observer Live's Brian Alvarez heard from a lot of people in AEW who were embarrassed by Tony Khan's tweets this week about Jinder Mahal and Hook. Alvarez said, quote, Tony thinks there is a method to his madness, which is about driving engagement to promote AEW programming, and it's, quote, gonna happen more. On a related note, Alvarez claims that, quote, WWE loves when their talent trolls Tony on Twitter. This isn't a method. It's not a method, though, is it? If your method is just constantly whining about what WWE's got going on and not focusing on what you've got going on, that's not really a method. If that's the case, my method would be just complaining about things. You know, you could claim that complaining about things and you know, moaning about things that are out of your control or in your control. Like, what do you mean it's a method? It's not a method. You sound like an idiot. Not Alvarez, sorry. Tony sounds like an idiot. Tony sounds so stupid. I talked about this on the podcast. Hook, I mean, let's be honest here. Hook and Jinder are, like, roughly the same person. I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to get too into it. But, like, they're not far off from each other, if we're going to be totally honest here. Lord have mercy, man. Method to his madness. Method to his madness. If I put a raw egg, method to his madness. I don't even know what I was going to say. There is no method. What method is there? If the method is to make you sound like a whiny, like, just... Oh, my lord. It's not a method. It's not. I don't know how many more times I can say this. How is this a method? How? What makes this a method? Who thinks this is a method? What are you talking about? Where is the method coming from? What do you mean? What are you talking about? Like, okay, I understand, okay, because the tweet is like, oh, who cares? But at the end, he was like, oh, catch Dynamite on 8. Unless the method, like, oh man, devil's advocate. The method is supposedly supposed to be like, hey, he's talking about WWE and he's talking about Hook and all this stuff. Hook's got a 28-1 record. Wow, I should tune into AEW. What? No. It's the same thing with Jim Cornette and Chris Jericho. When I hear and see all that stupid nonsense that they say on Twitter, man, I tune it out so fast, man. That's why when I talked about it, I think it was like the last episode, I was like, bro, who cares, man? Who cares what the tweet was? It was stupid, and it made Tony look stupid, and it like inadvertently hurt the product in the process. There is no method, man, unless the method is just embarrassment and stupidity. Next, F4W Online's Dave Meltzer said Sting wants to wrestle the Young Bucks in his retirement match at AEW Revolution because, quote, he loved doing the Forbidden Door 2022 match with them. Matt and Nick Jackson were originally scheduled for more time off, but, quote, Sting asked them and they weren't about to turn that down. Despite how you feel about the Young Bucks, they are an incredibly talented duo, and they are also an incredibly tenured duo as well, So you can have your thoughts about them, but at the end of the day, they are fantastic in the ring, and they're also very talented on the mic, and they have very, I don't want to say like established. The point I'm trying to make is like, they are really good at their characters, you know what I mean? And that's only because they've been doing their characters for a very long time. And again, I said this on the podcast, if there's any duo that you're gonna face in a tag team match for your last match, right, you'd want it to be the Young Bucks, okay? I made the opinion that I would rather it not be the Young Bucks and it be like the Guns or House of Black or something, a team that would benefit from the rub of Sting in his last match. But it's Sting, it's the match that he wants to do, so there's really not much else that there is to say. I'm sure the match is going to be great. I'm sure the build to the match is, I hope that the build to the match is going to be great, So, I mean, other than that, there's really nothing much else to do but, wait for the incredible match that awaits us in March. Moving back to WWE, according to PW Insider, Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits, aka The Pride, are now listed as babyfaces on WWE's internal roster. There's not really much to say about this simply because, well, yeah, I mean, of course they're going to be listed as babyfaces. It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense if the Pride were heels and then the Final Testament were heels. So, yeah, I mean, obviously the Final Testament needs to go up against somebody that is, not as evil or spooky as they are. And, yeah, man, I look forward to this because, this definitely seems like it's very nice. What's the word? This seems like it's going to be really good. The Pride just formed. The Final Testament just formed. AOP just came back. I'm sure Montez, Bobby Lashley, Angela, Karrion, Akam and Razor, Akam and Razar, man, they're gonna put on fantastic matches, and I cannot wait to see, how this is gonna unfold. I look forward to it, and hopefully we see them on a pay-per-view, and not just in like, I don't know, maybe some sort of significant match of some kind. I just don't want it to be like a one-off match, and then that's kind of it, So yeah, looking forward to it. Next, WWE has been working on a Bray Wyatt project over the past week, per Insider. Bo Dallas has been interviewed for it and was in Pittsburgh, home of Bray's design partner and collaborator Jason Baker, this week to film material. Is this why he's still listed with WWE? Like, is this why he's still on the roster? I hope not, personally. I hope that they have something for him outside of, production. And I'm not trying to take away what they're doing right now. Okay, I look forward to seeing this. I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. I mean, WWE does wonderful with the packages and the documentaries and stuff like that. So I would love to see this. But with that being said, I would hope that they're not just keeping Dallas on just for this, and then as soon as this is done, they cut him off. I personally would not want that. I would like Bo Dallas to come back and have some type of run in tribute, I don't know, me personally, it just feels weird that this is probably why they're just keeping him on, and I could be wrong, but if that's the case, it just feels a little bit weird, and I would personally like it more if he had one final run in WWE, And then, you know, whatever they decided to do after that is whatever they decided to do. But again, not to take anything away from this, and I'm sure the documentary is going to be great. Finally, the Wrestling Observer newsletter notes that Giovanni Vinci is, quote, out due to a concussion he suffered on the Day 1 episode of Raw. Austin Theory and Carmelo Hayes also, unfortunately, got a little bit banged up this past SmackDown. I don't remember if they got concussions, but one thing that I will say, I'm glad that they stopped the match. I'm glad that when Giovanni got, you know, messed up, they stopped the match. I'm glad that when Austin Theory and Carmelo got a little bit messed up, they stopped the match. Like, I'm glad that we are just, I know I keep saying this, but it's just such a relief that we are just 100% focused on the safety of the competitors in the ring. I'm so glad that is what we are doing. We are ensuring the 100% safety and protection of the wrestlers involved, and we are not letting them fight through the pain and ignore the injuries anymore, which could result in long-lasting pain and injuries and all that sort of stuff. I'm so glad we're not doing that anymore. The good news is that, you know, going again with the whole they stopped the match immediately, right? They stopped any further damage, you know, and them getting to it so soon means that, yes, he is out, but he's going to be back much sooner than he would be if he had continued on with the match, or they had, like, just sort of left him there and then finished the match, you know, regularly. You know what I mean? So I'm glad to know that, you know, the safety and the protection is being prioritized over finishing the match or, like, you know, continuing on with the storyline. So let's hope that Giovanni Vinci and Austin Theory and Carmelo Hayes make a speedy recovery and they're back sooner rather than later. What do we talk about? All right, so there's two things that I did mention. The first one I just didn't bother to mention, and the second one I genuinely forgot. All right, so the first one, so way back in 2020, right, on the Jericho Cruise, apparently Chris Jericho was mouthing off to MVP, and I guess he didn't think that MVP was froggy enough to leap, and MVP knocked Chris Jericho out on his cruise. And according to Sean Ross Sapp, okay, so the cruise knockout story happened, quote, just under a year ago, and Sapp mentioned other issues between Jericho and MVP, and Cassidy's sources also confirmed a previously reported hotel incident between the two wrestlers. Because apparently Brian Last mentioned a story about Chris Jericho getting knocked out on his own cruise ship by someone on Cornette's drive-thru, and then Cassidy's at BodySlam.net confirmed with sources that MVP and Jericho got into a heated exchange. So that apparently happened. Jericho's great. That's all I'm going to say about that. And then I genuinely forgot to talk about this one. I apologize. Tony Khan's Tuesday's tweets weren't a heavy topic of discussion backstage at Dynamite yesterday, at least according to Fightful Select sources. So, if you didn't see it, and I don't even blame you for not seeing it, it happens, this is like the third time this happened. Someone went, hey, WWE's doing well, and then Tony Khan was like, blah, blah, something, so he was like, oh, well, why do you have Jinder on TV? Jinder hasn't done anything, and who cares, honestly, man? It's just old men yelling at cloud. Who cares? If Tony Khan put the energy that he was putting into his stupid tweets into AEW, the product would be way better, man. Like, oh man, Tony Khan and Chris Jericho, they're great, man. All right, so WWE's hiring of ESPN's Lee Fitting as Kevin Dunn's replacement. Nobody has anything to be worried about, man. They wouldn't put him in charge. Well, okay, they wouldn't put him in that position if he didn't know what he was doing. All right, there's nothing to be worried about, man. Lord have mercy. Pac was backstage in Jacksonville. They thought he was going to show up at Daly's place. He didn't, so I assume that means he's going to show up next week backstage potentially, and then maybe the week after that, because it's a multi-show process type deal. So I guess that means that he is going to keep showing up until he's cleared, and that's why he's showing up backstage. I don't 100% know. Booker T said Patrick Clark, formerly known as Velveteen Dream, reached out to him 3 months ago. Now, there's no way the apology happened 3 months ago, because if that's the case, I'm getting old, okay? So that's why I was like, it's kind of weird to reach out to try and get back into the business before you apologize. Just seems a little bit weird and a bit shifty. Man, I don't like the guy. Okay. Bo Dallas is still under contract. Why? Objectively, just completely objectively, just out of curiosity, why? I'm very curious about that, you know? And they couldn't confirm it was a full-time tiered per appearance deal. Fightful Select reports Queen Aminata. I keep calling her Queen Amanita. Amanita counselor, and man, that was terrible. So, great wrestler, great character. Would love to see more of her. Don't think AEW is going to do anything with her anytime soon, so hopefully something develops in the near future. Folks, that's going to do it for this episode, and hopefully everybody has a wonderful tonight and a wonderful tomorrow. And as always, big hugs all around.